Greetings, I'm Deborah Miller, and I chose as my book report presentation, The Cross and Gendercide, a Theological Response to Global Violence Against Women and Girls. The author is Dr. Elizabeth Gerhardt, a professor of theology and social ethics at Northeastern Seminary. Dr. Gerhardt has an extensive background in the areas of theology, church history, and social ethics. Her research interests focus on the application of the theology of the cross to contemporary global justice issues and a church response. And my chosen book report is her most recent publication. This book is not by any standard just another book sounding off on the problems or illnesses of violence against females from a female perspective. On the contrary, this book gives a voice to the systematic killing and violence against females globally. Dr. Gerhardt's book addresses the historical, cultural, religious, and political context of global violence against females through the lens of theology. Within her book, Dr. Gerhardt proposes how the people of God, aka the church, can work together via raising the awareness of and giving assistance and service towards improving the conditions of females, women, and girls caught in the grips of violence. It is an invitation to all to put aside your traditional understanding of violence against women and girls, blaming the situations on one or the other, and to replace it with a more action-oriented, faithful, and ethical obligation. Dr. Gerhardt believes that the challenges associated with violence against women and girls require arbitration that identifies human suffering while seeking divine intervention and comfort. Thus, people, no matter your place in life, do have a moral and decent obligation to get involved via political frameworks, social life frameworks, and our religious structures in which one is called to connect with. This type of involvement is a vital component of support, and it expresses a robust faith on the part of the advocate. Moving on, I must admit I was not prepared for what challenged me during this reading. I became stunned with the thoughts of how evil human beings can be to each other. The tough truths within this book constantly overwhelmed my emotions. The statistics were incredible, and the stories spoke of appalling episodes. I found myself lamenting when faced with all of this, and with the realization that we, particularly as a people of God, is doing so little. And the book also reminded me of an incident that happened to me. First, a disclaimer. Viewing my incident from the perspective of Dr. Gerhardt's book is small. Nonetheless, it was upsetting to my spiritual walk at the time, and I viewed it as hateful and vicious. And I received no support from my church nor from my husband. The subject matter brought to memory a bitter moment in time when I was disrespected by one of the elders of my church. I had recently become Christian, and my past mishaps, were still relevant in my present. So I had just left court due to a DWI, and I had my driver's license suspended and was ordered to attend a class for alcoholics. Yes, I had a past before Christianity. And as I was walking home, feeling ashamed of my past, I saw Brother Ben sitting on his porch. His home was located on the direction towards my house, and it was located on the property of the church. So I walked up to his porch, spoke to him, shook his hand, and sat down a while to talk about how I was feeling about what I was going through. And while sitting on Brother Ben's steps, Elder Singleton walks up. And again, supposing I could receive some spiritual counseling or support from the elder or the brother, I reached my hand out to shake Elder Singleton's hand. The elder bent over and kissed me directly on my lips. I was shocked. I quickly became offended and I left. I disclosed this violation to my husband, and he responded with, "It must have been something that you did. It was basically my entire fault." And I became so confused and angry, so I retaliated by not making his lunch for an entire week. I further disclosed this violation to the pastor of our church, and she responded similarly. Now, this was a female pastor. She responded similarly to my husband. So I became even more confused, questioning what had I done wrong. And the only witness I had to this offense was Brother Ben, and he remained silent. Consequently, I have never sought out counseling or spiritual support from a pastor or ministerial helper, even until this day, and especially if that leader happened to be male. However, I did create a meeting space, a safe and confidential environment where some can come to my home and share their questions and spiritual concerns within a group. This was a group of us who were also recovering addicts within our church. We would meet once a week within my home to share issues and concerns regarding sobriety and spirituality. Fortunately, I was able to share that bitter moment within the group. It was there that I was listened to, supported, and offered some counsel and or advice. Thus, I was able to forgive the offense, forgive my husband, and to forgive my pastor, and then move on. While I still do not understand why others blame the victim, as this type of unfounded blaming can cause your faith to be deeply shaken with the help and can be deeply shaken, but with the help and guidance of the Holy Spirit, one can retain a trust in God, even while one may become more suspicious of ecclesiastical authority. Question: what can humanity do against such reckless violence and hate? There are those who are out there doing something about it, and Dr. Gerhardt's book helps churches and Christians to not only become informed, but to also develop a corporate theology to confront this plague, using the life and theology of Dietrich Bonhoeffer as her inspiration. Gerhardt reaffirms that we as Christians should already know we need to die to ourselves and live as Christ taught us to live, to love and care for one another, and most importantly, to speak truth to power. Moreover, Dr. Gerhardt goes on and puts forward that while there is often a halting acknowledgement by churches to identify violence against women and girls as a theological and confessional issue that requires a unified, holistic church response, she does acknowledge that contemporary contributions by the church in identifying and describing the efforts of gendercide is happening via educating Christians and pastoral and spiritual leaders to the extent of the problem, encouraging support to victims and philanthropic efforts to aid women and girls in need. Thus, I agree, having read and experienced some of the things that she wrote about, and emotionally, I do agree with Dr. Gerhardt in that one possible strategy that can be used in the church to promote an end to gendercide, namely violence against women and children, is an upfront presentation of this atrocity, and for the church to not hide behind the violator's rights while overlooking the rights of women and girls. I also feel that this type of address will and does change some belief systems within most churches, especially where male dominance is highlighted. Thus, I highly recommend the read of The Cross and Gendercide, a Theological Response to Global Violence Against Women and Girls. Thank you.